the second part. Basically, where we were up to, if I remember right, was about the to been collecting the actual. Well, it was actually up between a 15 to a 20-foot tree the other day, getting the trail camera down, which I've took down from up the Lake District and brought it back down to Rivington, which is going to be back up. There's going to be 3 cameras altogether. We keep adding one. Hello and welcome to my show, viewers and subscribers. Right, let's just say, first of all, I'm sorry about the delay on the second part of Not Yet Ordinary UFO series. I have been working away, as you all know, so I couldn't actually meet up with Steve, but saying that as well, that being away working, I still have been behind the scenes working away doing this, because I've actually been collecting the actual, well, I was actually up between a 15 to a 20-foot tree the other day, getting the trail camera down, which I've took down from up the Lake District and brought it back down to Rivington, which is going to be back up. There's going to be 3 cameras altogether. We keep adding one and a little bit more, but there's going to be 3 at the weekend. We're going to put them up with Mick on Saturday. So Mick's going to do a little bit of an intro and a little bit of a video, which is coming up soon on that, where you actually can view the actual cameras 24/7. But yeah, so I have been working away, but like I said, there has been a delay. But like I said, after the last series as well, I didn't really rate the Zoom, to be honest. I wanted to see Steve in person, so I will say, you Steve Mera.
Here we are.
And it's our day off, so
yeah,
I know
my day off.
I know I put last time, I mean, I brought Steve on with a bit of a smile last time, so I'll try again. So we know he should be an MBE, Steve Mera, but I do know that his middle name should be Dapper, and that's that's because he's. I've never heard anybody quote about his clothing he always wears. So today, it's day off.
I'm in the slacks today.
He's in his slacks. Usually it's like his research. It packs a punch and it's super sharp like his clothing, but it's our day off. So there you go, Steve Mera.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. Good to see you.
Always great to see yourself. And I must admit as well, I didn't recognise Steve when he opened the front door, because he didn't have a clipboard or running round like a lunatic at the awakening. So yeah,
the secret life of Steve Mera.
Yeah,
I know you do end up a bit typecast, unfortunately. I mean, all the TV shows I've done over the years, and there's been so many now, you end up typecast in the way of, you always used to say, can you dress like a bit like a Walter Mitty character? And I think that it was the Americans that started that off first, because when I was doing TV shows for them and doing something in regarding parapsychology or whatever, they always used to think, oh, parapsychologists in the UK are all like professors and they wear tweeds and all that sort of thing.
That's true.
In fact, if you go to the universities, and I've been there and I've been to parapsychology departments, it's like long-haired hippies with earrings in, tattoos and stuff, and the parapsychologists, you know what I mean? So it is not really like that anymore.
No, it's changed.
But you end up a bit typecast, I guess, over the years, I mean, sometimes I've done shows where they've stuffed padding underneath me, maybe wear big dicky bows. It's been some crazy times. But you know what, it's always, I always think in that mindset. It's an authoritative information.
True. True.
So you're trying to give it out as best as you possibly can. But you know what, then there is times when I just sort of kick back and I'm in my slacks like I am today. It's a day off,
Deserves it.
But all the information's there though.
Yeah, never lose that, no. Anyway, getting back to the second part, basically where we were up to, if I remember right, was about the XP4s, the actual drones, and you were saying about other drones as well, so
yeah.
Press on.
Well, there's a lot of drones, and there's some we do know, some we don't know. The incidents that have been taking place, not only just in the US, but in the US most significantly, especially in New Jersey. And I think it's really interesting that Steven Spielberg is making his new movie, which can't wait to see. Now, we all know what it was like last time when he dipped his toe into the subject of UFOs. Amazing. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And you know what? It stands, I can't believe it's 77?
Yeah, no.
It's just, I can't believe that film. I was 10 And when to watch it now, it's like the special effects and everything. It's like it's modern.
I know.
You know, it's timeless, and that's what's so good about. He put so much work into that because he went when he wanted to make that film. He went to the original files and said, "Let me have the files. I want to see what real events are like." And some of these people were saying, not only did we have UFO encounters, but there was a string of paranormal incidents that took place as well. And he thought, I've got to put some of that into the film. Hence the poltergeist type scene, and people say, poltergeist type scene in the film? Yes. Not only did he make a film called Poltergeist, but there was, because there was that incident where the UFOs come down and all hell breaks loose in the house. The taps turn on, things are turning on, the Hoover starts running around on its own.
The grid with the screws.
The screws go. It is typical poltergeist type stuff, and he wanted to make sure, I want some of that in this, because it's about true elements. He wanted to demonstrate, even back in 1977 when I was like 10 years of age, that paranormal is very much associated with the UFOs. It wasn't spoken word, but it was definitely in his film, and he knew that. So I think it's really interesting that he's filming the new movie, which there was an initial name came out was The Dish. It was the title, but that was a fake title. The actual name of the movie is called Disclosure, which is interesting. And where's he doing most of the filming? New Jersey, where they had most of the UFO sightings and most of the drone sightings near military bases. He's in that location. And I think to myself, well, that's quite a good idea, actually, because what's the chance of seeing something, and he might be able to even film it, he might actually even have a real phenomena in the movie. How crazy would that be?
I know.
You know, so there's a good chance. But there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on there, and I did say, and I think I mentioned it prior, when we last talked, that there seems to be two things that are going on. There is the real phenomena, and I'm used to seeing the real phenomena, just as I do and other researchers like Paul Sinclair does, Barry Fitzgerald. We see these light forms, and they tend to be kind of amber coloured, orangey, and they morph, they change shape, sometimes they duplicate, sometimes they materialise or dematerialise. That, to me, it represents the phenomena. It's the most common form of UAP.
Yeah, it's like Paul says, like IFLs.
IFLs, intelligent life forms.
Yeah,
they are, because we don't know if they're really a structured craft, those things. But it's part and parcel of the phenomena. We have to take the word UAP now, which is the new term now, and under that we've got structured craft and maybe non-physical, non-structured craft like light forms, plasma type phenomena, which is light but intelligent and interacts with people. You know, that's strange weird. Are they living things, or is there craft inside some of these things? Who really knows? But it's got its own category, and it is the most common form of UAP seen now around the world. But not only did they have them in the sky, but they also had drones, some type of drones. Now when we talk about drones, I'm not talking about your typical drone, 4 propellers and off it goes. I'm talking about really exotic, strange. Some of these were as big as vehicles.
On the last one.
You know,
like
SUVs.
13 foot by 6 foot wide, and same as a car, isn't it?
But not one was the same of each other. There was no duplication out of many of them we were seeing. Not one duplication. Everything was different. Different size, different shape, different lighting, different manoeuvrability. It was like, let's put our toys out. These are wonderful toys I think the US government have got. The skies were full of this, and I think they knew it was going to happen. Phenomena was going to appear in the skies. It's going to appear for maybe a month near these military bases and all sorts of places, and they kind of maybe knew it was going to happen. So how did he diffuse this? This is a massive problem. We're not in control. These things are going to be out there and seen by thousands of people. In fact, 300,000 people reported sightings of these in just New Jersey alone. How can we dilute this? Well, I'll tell you what, let's get our toys out, the ones that they don't know, which are in military bases, and we'll get them and we'll launch them from the military bases, because just as Donald Trump said, he knows that these come from these particular locations and military bases. And I thought, that's a clue, it's an interesting thing. And I thought to myself straight away, how to dilute it is get your own stuff in the skies, and then when people say, what is all these drone things, what is all this weird stuff, we find out the FAA cleared them. That's the Federal Aviation Authority.
The FAA have lights on. It had the FAA lights, so they must have been common sense.
Yeah, they had to clear them. So there were no collisions and things, and they cleared them. Now, if I'm thinking to myself, if this was the phenomena, they couldn't have cleared them. So some of these things obviously are clearable, which means that they are owned by the United States government. There's no better way to dilute a situation. By throw up all your toys in the sky, cause confusion. You're seeing phenomena, and you're seeing these strange drone things. When the FAA come out and say on television, no problem, oh, they were cleared, then you think to yourself, okay, well, what are those up there is ours. So straight away, the dismissal of the phenomena is there. In other words, although no phenomena, everything was ours. Everything was seen in the sky, but it wasn't. I think there were two different things going on.
Yeah.
And it didn't just happen in New Jersey. I mean, we had a few fair share here as well in the UK and a few other countries, and it happened around about the same time. So what was all that about? Do you know, did something happen where they said, like, do you know what, we're going to appear in the skies for a month and we're going to be over your military bases and you're not going to be able to ignore us? And he thought, well, we can't control this then, so what can we do? We can only prepare for it. And that, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's never happened in history before.
There was the case in, was it 1965 in FA Warren, where there was hundreds of like drone cat things seen over bases, weren't there, in 1965?
Yeah, in 1965,
and in 2023 in Langley.
Langley, yes.
Yeah, Langley,
that's right.
where they're actually to NASA.
They're never far away though from these facilities, are they?
No.
You know, so you could say, all right, so what are they? But you know what I've seen, looking at these, if they're using aviation lighting recognition systems, you know, green and red lights, starboard and port, and anti-collision lights underneath, you think, well, they've been very kind if they've actually done that, and there actually is the phenomena. And they put those, they don't put anti-collision lights on them.
No, they don't.
They don't put starboard and port lights on them like navigation lighting. This is done, this is because they're man-made. They have to be man-made for that. Even secretive, but certainly man-made, exotic. And you know, researchers like even Jacques Vallée has turned around and said about the absurdity. When he talks about absurdity, it's like design things in a way that if you are seeing something in the sky and it's so profound, you can't explain what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. And you tell somebody else and they kind of think, well, I don't know what it is. That's what they want. They don't want people. They don't want people to know I know what it is. They want people to say I don't know what it is. So they make these things look strange and unusual and act weird because you know they can't pin it down. Nobody's there who's pointing up in the sky and saying exotic secret craft were flying around that night. No, they're just putting it down to it's strange UAP drones. I like the way they call that. Not just drones, UAP drones. In other words, the UAP have drones as well. But I think we're dealing with two different things here. I think we're dealing with phenomena, because clearly phenomena was present in the sky. I think we're dealing with some of the American toys, secret toys as well, to dilute the situation. Yeah.
Because I know at the top in the White House, there's a file stamped mystified.
Yes.
You know, so there's the 8 top people at the White House say there's a file saying it's stamped mystified. They still do not know.
You don't know. I mean, there's not going to be people in, you know, when we talk about the government, people think that, you know, the guys in the government, the US government, know what's going on. Well, very little know, to be honest. If you even just talk about the UFO hearings, they don't know what's going on. You've got all these different characters and judges and commissioners and all sorts of different things. At the end of the day, they haven't got a clue because they're not in the know. They don't need to know, so they don't get told. So they're just like any other person who's witnessing phenomena. They're trying to ask these questions, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. I think, yes, we've got some of the exotic toys. And you know what? Ben Rich from Lockheed Martin years ago, he used to say a few things, could never keep his mouth shut, Ben. And he said, you know what? Out in that desert, we've got things out there that would, you know, would make George Lucas envious. And you think, yeah, I know you've got. And then there were other times like, oh, do you know, by the way, just slips out, by the way, we now have the technology to take ET back home. It's like, what? You know, we've got some serious tech. And what's happened is, over the years, if you think back about aviation, you go to the airport now, you can't even see a jumbo jet, you know? The jumbo jet. When was the jumbo jet made? You know, if we go back to the 1960s and 70s, we were using the same aircraft as we are really now, to be honest with you.
True, no.
The same methods. So what's basically happened with all this technology? So what happened? Initially, there was, when aircraft were being built, it was the 10-year principle, double speed principle. And what that means is that every 10 years, you'd have an aircraft 10 years later that can go twice as fast as the aircraft 10 years back. That was the procession. So on and so on and so on. Now, if you follow that procession now, from every single year, we should be able to travel at 350 Mach.
True, yeah.
You can't even imagine travelling at 30 Mach. 350 Mach, according to that calculation. But what happened was, as time went in, on and on and on over the years, and suddenly it gets into late 60s and 70s, suddenly it plateaus.
Yeah.
It just goes, here's the technology, and then it goes, zoom. And you think, well, what happened? Where's the rest of it? Well, I'll tell you what happened to the rest of it. It all went black. It all went secret. Because all the stuff they are using to gain extra speed and velocities and manoeuvrability is all using exotic stuff that they don't want to tell us about. New methods in engineering, propulsion systems. They want to keep it secret because they don't want to share it with the rest of the world.
No.
You know, like China or Russia. But hey, they've got their own stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, and they are all in this together in a sense of trying to get the next step ahead of each other in regarding technology. They all do the same things, all back engineering stuff, messing about with stuff, and they've all got some fantastic technology. But like I say, that if you take all that away, the principle of how did they get this stuff is that it's exotic materials from somewhere else, and the power consumptions that they're utilising is tremendous. I mean, as it's been said many times before, this is like the atom bomb on steroids, and we know how secret that was. You know, when we were creating that, it was one of the super secret programs probably ever in the world. However, something supersedes that, and that's the subject of UFOs back then. Now UAP and technologies. So you know, we can't even begin to imagine. It's because they've done a good number on us. People think, oh no, we haven't got that technology. This is the level of our technology. Well, that's what they want. They've done a great number. That's what they want you to believe. They don't want you to believe that, oh, we've got incredible stuff out there flying around, and you'd look at it and go, and you'd swear to God, that's a UFO. It has to be a UFO. It doesn't. Now we're living in a time now that we cannot discern the difference between our tech and their tech. And the problem is now is that they're quite happy to fly it over cities and for people to see, because no one's going to shout up there and say, oh look, they're flying another exotic space thing or whatever. They're going to turn around and say, I've seen a UFO, I've seen a UAP. And that's exactly what I think has been happening. And this, even when it started coming out with a Tic Tac, I mean, myself and Barry, you know, Barry Fitzgerald, we talked and we did our research, and we realised the likelihood is it falls more to this is human technology, the Tic Tac.
Yeah, I would agree.
When we came out of it years back, we, bloody hell, the raised eyebrows we got. People shunned us. You know, they said we must be stupid. How nothing like that can travel around. Yeah, right. You know, and now you've got even officials in the Department of Defence and military coming forward and saying the Tic Tac is actually US secret stuff, technology. This stuff is not from space. These are what they're saying. These are legitimate, official, working people saying, yeah, we know what this is now. And a lot of people jump on now and say, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Well, we said that. So because we were one of the first to come out with it, someone's got to be the first at some stage and come out with it. There was a lot of raised eyebrows about it. Some people didn't believe it, but do you know what? We've got some incredible toys out there.
It must be amazing now.
Well, the military officers don't know that. I mean, if you're a pilot, I mean, I know because I've got an uncle who was a Top Gun trainer. How weird is that? And you're only in Top Gun training for a very minimal amount of time, a few years, because you've really got to be right at that pinnacle point in your mind with your reflexes and everything. And you know what? You're only like that for maybe 5 years, and then you start to degrade through age.
True.
He knows that pilots don't get told stuff, and when they're sending these pilots out from the Nimitz or the USS Roosevelt, and they're not sending them up armed, oh no, don't go out armed, let's take all you know, we don't want you to open fire on anything. So they go up there, it's a training session which they don't have any armed weapons on, and they go up there and they see these things and they think, wow, we've seen all these strange weird stuff. It's a perfect opportunity to be test flying against them. It's like a live scenario. You imagine if you were in the army, because when I was back, I was in the army and I went back in time, you think, I remember going for a 12-mile hike going through the forests and the woods. They don't tell you Company A is going to jump out in you at 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't tell you that, don't prep you, because they want to sit back and see how it unfolds. How do you react to this? How are you going to deal with this? What are you going to do? And that's exactly the same thing how it happens with pilots. Because if you go back to the stealth fighter, the FF-17A Nighthawk, what an incredible piece of technology that is. We just didn't see it until 1991, I think it was, during the Gulf War. It was suddenly on TV and I thought, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
It's the new stealth fighter. The new stealth fighter, was manufactured in 1973 and test flown in areas out of the eyes of the normal public against other pilots. Those other pilots were flying starfighters. Now, starfighters are incredible aircraft. It was one of the fastest aircraft. The speed of the starfighters outdoes, the stealth fighter easily. But it's its stealth fighter's manoeuvrability and its way to disguise itself through detection of radar was one of the things that they couldn't understand. They thought, when they were pieced together, what the hell is this? Is this some type of UFO? What is this stuff? And they reported it as such back then. That was in 1974. It's no different in modern times, in the 2000s, 2004, when the pilots are pitted against these things. It's like, what the hell is that? The pilots don't know, they're not told. It's then you got to consider about 45 minutes later, a helicopter just lands there and says, let's take all the radar data, all the recordings and stuff away. For 45 minutes, how did they know? How did they know to be there 45 minutes to get all that stuff? Do you know what? I say, it was a great test to see how pilots react to this stuff. And even some of the pilots that have seen these things, I've even been told over the last 12 months, don't worry, it's a secret US tech. Even though that they were spouting off initially saying it's UAP. But the bottom line is that we've got some wonderful toys out there and they're not going to tell the pilots because they don't have a need to know. They're just doing a job.
No, it's like all the presidents, they don't know about what's, they're just like,
I think it's only a handful. I think it's probably a handful, maybe 5-6 presidents that might have known some stuff. Carson, he may have known some stuff because it was documented that when he found out, the story has it, this came from people that worked close with him in the Oval Office when he was President Carter. He had people in the Oval Office working with him, and it came from them. It was their stories. When he did eventually got some information about what the UFO then, not UAP, UFO phenomenon represented, he apparently, according to information, wept. He apparently went he was sat at the Oval Office desk and kind of like this, and he was upset, and he lifted his head and he said, I've just brought my daughter into this world. What information was he given to have that response if that happened?
Wow.
It's hard to imagine. Was it something so shocking that it was hard to comprehend? Something shocking to the point where he was concerned about his daughter, who was only a baby at the time, but what future was going to hold for her? Well, nobody really knows. But I do believe there's a few that have had some knowledge of what's been going on.
Oh,
most probably not, because they're just elected individuals. Just like you and me, we get elected doesn't mean that we're just another person that can blabber out information, so we've got to be careful. So a significant need to know.
I mean, it's like the JFK files have just opened, haven't they? And everybody's jumping on them, to try. But it's still not going to tell you.
No, they're never going
to tell you.
They never will do, because they dug a massive hole over the years, especially the US government, and not just US, many others, but US government mostly we know about. They've dug this massive hole of secrecy and keeping people quiet by various different means, some of them not too good. And how can that ever come out? The things that they've done to keep secrets. You can't. So when people are going to be pressing buttons in governmental power and saying, I demand the truth, I might be a president, I demand the truth, well, you're going to get redacted stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get, here's your stuff there. Well, what? This is the information. Well, why can't I get the information? Because it's national security.